So I got into the whole spirit of Halloween yesterday, and once again confirming to myself and to everyone that I'm just not the creative type. Hello everybody, it's me GhostCritic back again for another week of comic book reviews, and this week I've got two annuals for you, a couple of indie titles, a new #1, a final issue I think, and an event book with an obligatory tie-in issue to go with it. So let's get started. And we kick off with Green Lantern Annual #2, and this is part 5 of the whole Lights Out storyline that has been going through all the Green Lantern titles. I read part 1, which was the last issue of Green Lantern, and now we're on to part 5, which is actually the conclusion. So I've missed out on like 3 issues. I haven't a clue how it got from part 1 to part 5, so it's my usual bugbear about having to buy titles that I wouldn't normally buy, which I haven't, to get the whole story. So I'm coming to this title a little bit confused. Apparently John Stewart has died. The White Lantern Kyle has kind of teamed up with Relic, and the red, green and pink lanterns, purple lanterns, have kind of come together to go and fight Relic despite their depleted ring power. There is kind of an awkward moment where Carol says she knows where Kyle is because she has this connection with him, and of course Hal immediately jumps to a conclusion, whether it's the right one or not, that maybe Kyle and Carol have been getting it on. I don't know, maybe this has happened in one of the other titles, but in obligatory cavalry coming into the rescue, they all team up and fly off to apparently rescue Kyle. But Kyle is actually trying to help Relic, you know, the psychotic, evil villain of the piece. Yes, let's team up with him to break this war down. It is the cliche of we have this mad psychotic villain, but what he's actually trying to do is for the good of the universe. Anyway, yes, the Green Lanterns, the Purple Lanterns, the Blue Lanterns, the Purple Lanterns, all the Lanterns come to have this huge big fight to try and stop Relic getting through the Source Wall. So we have the obligatory sacrifice, we have the idea that there's now going to be no more entities, the kind of avatars of all these colours, and the Green Lanterns get a new home. That's all really I could have taken from this, not knowing what had happened between part 1 and part 5. It's a great comic. I love Green Lantern. It's certainly, you know, reasserted itself as a great title now that Jeff Johns has gone. We have our new writer on here, and interested to see now where Green Lantern is going to go. I don't think they stitched me up right. And our second annual of this week comes from Swamp Thing, and this is actually a pretty darn fine good way of jumping onto the title in case you haven't been enjoying the Charles Soule run and giving it up after Scott Snyder, because he's doing a great job. For those of you who have still been reading Swamp Thing, this is kind of an interlude. The last issue of Swamp Thing, we saw the gauntlet thrown down by the Parliament of Trees. Swamp Thing has to have sort of a battle royale between him and upcoming pretender Jason Woodrue, who was the identity of our villainous Cedar character. And what we have here, it's almost like a kind of Rocky training montage, only greener. Right, so we have a little backstory about the Green. Charles Soule continuing to expand the history and his take on the Swamp Thing universe. So already you have a great jumping on point there for anyone who's not familiar with this title. And then we jump to, it's kind of like Swamp Thing has got himself like a sponsor from the Parliament of Trees, who is guiding him through his training ready for the big fight. And it's very much similar to what is going on through Animal Man and the Parliament of Red, where, you know, there are factions within this Avatar's area. That, you know, they've got the Parliament of Trees. You thought they were all on the same page, they were all kind of together on this, but there are people, you know, bidding on other people, wanting a new avatar. Just like in the Red, we have the kind of rogue element of the avatars that are causing all that nonsense over there. But we're talking about Swamp Thing here. So yeah, we have this past avatar of the Green, sending him to Lady Weeds, and we get this kind of whole kind of Tibetan Buddhist meditation psychology mumbo jumbo. You know, you are the Green, be the Green. And it is basically a way of showing the reader and Swamp Thing himself that, you know, you've just been using this like tiny portion of the power that you actually have, and you haven't realised how powerful you really are. This fight you're going to should be a no-brainer for you, and it takes several pages for Swamp Thing to almost realise this. We move on, and then he gets another kind of visitation, so to speak, from one of his predecessors, and goes back to his hometown, and there we find like the power of saying no. It does kind of feel like I'm mocking the title a little bit, but it is a really enjoyable annual, and certainly suits a new reader to maybe catch up with this storyline. Soule and artist Pina do an absolutely incredible job on this. Again, like I said, expanding the history and the universe of Swamp Thing. It's definitely worth a pick up, and just follow on with this great story that Charles Soule is telling. I've come to terms with the fact that yes, my diet is going to be brains for breakfast, brains for lunch, and yeah, brains for dinner. But you know what? We can spice things up. Yes, sweet chili sauce from Blue Dragon. Yes, I'm still getting it. It's Sex issue 8. I just seem to have this morbid fascination with this title, and I just really want to know how and when we're actually going to kind of get a story from this. And it's not something I often do, but there is like a letters page in the back of this, and I kind of breeze through it. I don't really read it in any depth, but one letter did catch my eye, and it is a problem that I think this this title does have, and it's the fact that all the sex is kind of a distraction. It's getting in the way of maybe telling a story, or maybe the reader is missing out because of, you know, he says himself, Joe Casey, that he's specifically called this title Sex, and there is all this sex to, you know, be provocative, to catch a reader's eye. You know, in this industry where there's a proliferation of titles to pick from, what is your eye going to go to? And it's like a title called Sex. What is that about? But it is, in a way, its downfall. There is too much sex and not enough story. But in this issue, we kind of have Joe Casey doing a kind of Kubrick-esque, eyes wide shut tale, where we have, you know, the filthy rich all coming together to take part in this kind of bacchanal Roman orgy that only the rich could afford or would be as debauched to participate in. And all the while we have Simon and Annabelle just breezing through, walking and chatting, and we have this kind of verbal, flirtatious foreplay between the two, which kind of culminates in Simon finally letting go of his kind of straight-laced, in-control persona and just, right, I'm just going to give in to this and see where it takes me. But unfortunately, he's kind of left literally alone and naked. And the story kind of then fizzles out with Simon going. He has to jump over a wall to leave. And this is the end of the current 8-issue, I guess, storyline, to move on to a new chapter of this book where hopefully there'll be less of the sex and more of the storyline. Look, even I don't know who I'm meant to be here. It's like, I don't know, Heath Ledger's embarrassing cousin that they've locked up in the attic. We have ourselves another issue of Saga. This is number 15, and yes, Vaughan and Staples once again kind of capture snapshots of the three main storylines now that are traversing through this title. We obviously have the obligatory first page where we never know what we're going to get, and it's always something quite stunning, shocking, surprising. And then we move into our first part of the story where we have these continuing two reporters who are delving into the past of Alana, and they meet up with Cantos Robot X or Cantos Robot 10, whichever she may be, and we kind of get a bit of a backstory of her recounting her dealings with Alana and why she was banished to Cleve. Then we have the whole Marco and Alana and the family story introduced yet again. Okay, we get it. We have a family dynamic going on here. They're playing games with each other. They're kind of bonding through arguing, through, you know, sex. Yes, there's even sex in Saga. And then finally, which is the more interesting part of the story, was we take a little snapshot of the Will, whose ship is finally been fixed so he can leave the planet. But we get an explanation as to why the Will has been seeing the Stalk. And a couple of the other characters are seeing other kind of people that shouldn't be there. And we get a big shock ending again. I love this book. I do love it. I just wish it would move along a little bit faster. Vaughan is being very, I wouldn't say concise, because he's not at all. He's being very laboured in telling these three stories, and I just want it to move a little bit faster. With that shock ending, I won't spoil it with you, are we going to see the death of yet another of the main characters, or is this another fake out? On to Ultimate X-Men issue 33, and this is the issue that I think, is it the final one? Because this kind of leads into the Ultimate Universe's kind of event for the end of the year, which is Ultimate Cataclysm. Is this really going to be the end of the Ultimate Universe, or is this another way that Marvel is going to reset their Ultimate Universe and start again with issue 1s? I don't know. I haven't seen far enough on the solicits. I've said this before, I wouldn't be that disappointed to see the Ultimate Universe disappear. This is the only Ultimate title I get, and although I've really enjoyed, surprisingly, Brian Wood's take on the Ultimate X-Men, I really wouldn't be sorry to see this title go. But what has happened here, we get the conclusion to our World War X storyline. Jean and Kitty have their big fight, and Kitty just verbalizes that question that I've been asking from this title for so long. And it's like, Kitty says to Jean, when did you get so horrible? And this is the only bugbear that I've really had with this title, is the reasoning and the thought for Jean to be such a villainous character here. And there seems to be no plot point, or maybe I missed it, why she turned out like this. We get the end of Tian as a place where, you know, half of, you know, the half of the majority of mutants are living, and we get a satisfying enough conclusion to this storyline. Wood continues to balance, you know, the big action scenes with those quiet, introspective moments, and it's just done really, really well. And I was surprised, given Brian Wood's kind of indie background, that he could do so well on a more mainstream book. So thumbs up to Brian Wood. The artwork by, who was it, Martinez and Lucas, has been okay. It's been nothing out of the ordinary or special, but serviceable. Yeah. It's less Indestructible Hulk, more shiny Gangrene Man. And on to Guardians of the Galaxy issue 8, an Infinity tie-in. Oh, I'm buying a tie-in book. I'm buying Guardians of the Galaxy anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I have a lot of problems with this issue. The first half is very talky. They talk about what they're going to do next. There's no kind of rush to go and save Earth there. You know, I understand that there needs to be a plan, but do you have to talk about it so much? It's only through the convenient timing of Abigail Brand's holographic message to kind of go, help, help, I've been kidnapped, the peak has been invaded and taken over, come and rescue me, that they actually get out there and do something. Unfortunately, it does seem a little bit quick and easy the way they rescue Abigail. And then right at the end, when they do get in somewhat of a tight squeeze, there is a convenient rescue by Angela. This isn't going to be a very popular opinion, I'm sure. I do love Frank Avila's artwork, I do. Just not on this kind of book. It doesn't suit it at all, and it was murky, it just wasn't right. I didn't enjoy the artwork on this, and it kind of really pulled me out of what should have been a pretty good action-packed sci-fi in-space tale. And while we're on the subject of an Infinity tie-in, here is the main event book. It's issue 5 of 6 of Infinity. What is there really to say about it? Let's be honest here, this is a not so subtle attempt on advertising the up and coming new title, another Avengers one, Avengers World. That's really what this is setting up. We have all the planets that have been freed from the tyranny of all the baddies, all the villains, and, you know, plugging Avengers World. They say it as often as they possibly can, and then they decide, oops, let's go and rescue our own Earth now, and that's going to be your culmination, final issue, and probably the fallout from that, we hope. I've been having a great time with it. It's fun, but it's kind of, especially with this issue, it's your blockbuster movie, and we're at that point where it's all talky, it's all a bit expositional, and you're just like, oh, get on with it, let's see some action. There are some other little bits thrown in there. Thane trying to get his head round now that he once was a healer and now everything he touches dies. He's been given this containment suit. Thanos finally meets his son face to face. just nothing a lot happens, and it does feel a little bit fillerish. Yeah, that's all I've really got to say about this. And finally, that new issue 1 Sandman Overture. Wow, bloody good. I did wonder about this, and it was with a certain trepidation that I picked this title up. I was always going to, because it's the Sandman. The Sandman series is my, above all, favourite comic book series ever. I just love it that much. So I'm thinking, this is almost like 15 years down the line since we saw a Sandman, since the Sandman series finished. Do we really need a kind of prequel to it? Is this Gaiman needing a bit of money? Is he not getting enough children's stories out there? But it's like we never left. Gaiman just does another beautiful job at coming back to our Sandman universe, and it's just as magical, surreal, intriguing, engrossing, enveloping as it always has been for me. I don't mean this to be a pun of any time, but it just has this dreamlike quality, and coupled with J.H. Williams' kind of undulating panel work, the imaginative 4 gatefold page opening which showed all the different types of Sandman. We get introduced to lots of the characters that we are used to, like the Corinthian, which is just a creepy character. Well, just soak it in, people. It was fantastic. I felt so, by the end of this issue, I felt so nostalgic about the series, and it just didn't lose any of the magic that I felt when I was reading the original series. The one point that is just the most mind-blowing and just turns a lot on its head is the conversation that Destiny and Death have, where Death comes to visit Destiny and she says, I've just, what did she say? That she's just took Dream, that he's dead. He just doesn't know it yet. And I'm like thinking, wow, so all through the original series, Dream was actually dead. Turns a lot on its head, it really does. It was just a beautiful book from start to finish, from the artwork to the dialogue to, you know, J.H. Williams utilising, you know, his whole palette of artistic styles that we're used to. Beautiful. If you've read this book and it's your first introduction to the Sandman and you don't want to go and read the original series, you are dead to me. I'm only joking. But really, it is a wonderful, wonderful book, and I'm so glad to see Gaiman back on this title for its kind of last farewell, I guess. And that's it from me for the week. I hope you enjoyed my reviews and me looking foolish in Halloween makeup. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. Thank you for watching. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked. If this is your first time here, crikey, I haven't said this for a while, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate every single one of my subscribers and all their input in the comment section below. So don't forget to put a comment on the bottom. That's me out, and here's just a word from our sponsors. I've come to terms with the fact that yes, my diet is going to be brains for breakfast, brains for lunch, and yeah, brains for dinner. But you know what? We can spice things up. Yes, sweet chili sauce from Blue Dragon.